I don't buy into all that Gary Vaynerchuk says. I don't. But three concepts he presents in these next few clips are gold. Pure gold. Take a listen.
What I want us to focus on is this, which is one thing. Quality storytelling always wins. Always. And what we need to do is one major thing. Everybody thinks it's about the content. And all the action right now is in the context. Let me explain. Everybody looks at social networks, and this is probably the smartest thing I'm going to say, so maybe if you're going to pay attention, just listen to this one statement. Everybody, 99% of the people out there, and I spend all my time looking at all this stuff, are looking at social networks as distribution. You're doing something somewhere else, and then you're using the tweet to drive towards it. You're using the Facebook status update to drive towards it. We default into thinking that social networks are distribution because we treat it like email. To really win in the world that we're all about to embark into, we need to start respecting all these platforms. And when I say social networks, I'm just using that as a general term to any websites where people actually spend time, right? And even better if we actually have an ability to create a profile on it and be part of the conversation, right? And so we have to start respecting the context and the nuances of the room. When you start looking at, if you have the exact same 1,000 people on Facebook, the exact same 1,000 people on Pinterest, right? You post the same exact thing at the same exact time and they act completely different, that's when you start understanding how much the context matters.
Gary's point here is one about segmentation. When he says to respect the platforms, he's talking about respecting the psychology of people in the moment that they're interacting with that particular platform. This isn't some low-level concepts of segmentation based on demographics or socioeconomics or even general psychographics. It's more specified. It's the recognition that how your customers think and how they react to your marketing changes depending on their circumstances. That the very same customer who enjoys your text-based, information-oriented content on LinkedIn would rather be exposed to visual imagery content on Instagram or video content on YouTube or Facebook. In other words, the context in which that same customer views your content can drastically impact your content's influence on the customer's attitudes and behaviors. Let's listen a bit more.
The one thing we are not doing enough of is respecting the psychology of why people are in where they are at that time. This isn't social network sites. This is Facebook. This is Pinterest. This is Instagram. They're very, very, very different. When you are on Facebook, that's an all-encompassing awareness around your social graph. When you're on Pinterest, your psychology is intent to buy or aspiration to buy. You need to be storytelling differently in those platforms. We have to be giving them different visuals that are mapped to the psychology, not to the number of users that are there.
Although he doesn't get into details, Gary's clear on saying that we need to be storytelling differently, depending on the digital platform. But it's not just on digital. We need to be storytelling differently, depending not only on the environment in which we find our audiences, but also their circumstances at the time that they process our messaging. Are they happy, sad, excited, relaxed, melancholy, nostalgic, lonely? Whatever they're doing and feeling has to be an input that we consider when creating our message. It is possible that we might decide to tell the same story across platforms or situations or circumstances, but we need to think about telling that story differently so it has a higher probability of being heard, understood, and internalized. Let's listen now to concept number 3.
The one thing that is really deteriorating in our world is the amount of time we have. Everybody's pounding at this one asset. It's the one asset that none of us are going to get more of, and the battle, the supply and demand of attention is completely out of control. We're living through a major culture shift, and the only thing anybody in this room should care about that is the same for everybody is where the eyes and ears of everybody are. That's what matters. Attention is the only commodity. It's the only asset, that we need to be paying attention to. And our customers, and we know this because everybody here is living it, we're doing different things. And so we have to get out of this stupid thought of awareness and we have to start getting to emotional attention. Are we actually bringing them value? Do we actually talk to them about what they want in these spheres? It's not about pushing advertising, it's about bringing value in the sphere.
Gary's statement that attention is the only commodity or asset that we should be paying attention to is something every marketer needs to internalize with respect to marketing communication. Marketers have milliseconds to be noticed, perhaps half a second to truly gain attention, and then only a few seconds to capture that attention long enough so that real messaging can start. And this relates back to what he said earlier about segmentation and targeting. If you don't create messaging and tell the story in a manner that fits the environment and immediate circumstances of your audiences, you're less likely to capture their attention long enough to tell your story. Before I show you a Gary Vee bonus clip, let's recap these 3 golden points. Number 1, recognize that the same person is different psychologically depending on a given environment and circumstance. So we need to understand those different psychologies before creating our messaging strategy. Number 2, you might tell the same story across circumstances, but how you tell that story probably needs to change to fit the moment that each of your audience members is experiencing. And number 3, as Gary says, attention is the only commodity. It's the only asset that we need to be paying attention to. And let me add that audience attention has a limited supply even though demand for that attention is increasing, which means that audience attention is increasing in value every day. So let's close with one more Gary Vee clip where he talks about the need for content that does not have an immediate business objective, but is, in his words, human.
Give people value and funny stories. Give them an animated GIF that just makes them laugh, right? That just say Happy Monday. It's fine. You don't need a business objective for every piece of creative because we live in a world now where it's not just about campaigns where you do 2 or 3 of them and you spend all your money. You live in a world where we're doing it every day, a lot of it. And so we have the freedom, the creative freedom to actually act human and bring a little value to them. Bring value, bring value, bring value. Respond, engage, bring value, make it funny, make it newsworthy. And then let's all become grown-ups once and for all and recognize we can ask for the business if we're just authentic about it. And so give value, act human, do the right thing, answer, be there for them, have good, everybody on Twitter, everybody thinks you have to be funny on Twitter. Funny is the one characteristic that works up. Everything works on Twitter. It's a human platform, but the problem is most people don't want to be self-deprecating or have empathy or be kind. There's not that many, and nobody wants to put it out there. They think they want to put out something that gets retweeted. How about we listen instead of talk? People like that because the attention, the eyes, the ears of our consumers, they're clearly going in these places. They're clearly going in these places. And if we do not figure out the art and the science of how to actually storytell in them, not use them as just distribution. Realize how stupid it is to use the same picture on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr. Realize that. Understand there's a real science in this, a real storytelling battle going on right now in these platforms, and understanding that you as an individual act differently when you go into a boardroom in a business meeting than you would when you go with your girls to Las Vegas for the weekend, than when you would when you go out with your boyfriend. You're still the same person, but the context of the room changes the way you storytell.
Special thanks to Gary Vaynerchuk for letting me use those clips. Actually, I didn't even ask him. If you don't know who Gary Vee is, I put a link to his YouTube channel in the comments. I will warn you though, he does tend to delve into profanity a bit, so you're now forewarned. If you know people who would be interested in the content of this particular video, then take a moment right now and share with them. Also, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. I'm Anthony Miyazaki, and thanks for joining me on the Marketing Masters series.